St. Jerome in the Wilderness. And I think it's possible this might be a little bit of a self-portrait. Kind of. Not that I think I'm a saint. St. Jerome in the Wilderness. Each morning I get up and look out from the entrance to my cave, hill upon hill, disappearing into the blue. Grotesque rock formations, but no sign of man. Nothing is solid, though I point to the skull, which gleams like brass on my desk, a bell of warning next to the hourglass. I work at my book, which belongs to the future. Do I exist? Words pour through me like an untamed river, making for an unforeseen sea. I have taken off the big red hat they gave me and hung it on the wall next to the model of a church. At my feet sleeps a dangerous lion, my only friend. The hat in the church where he did do various clerical work for the church. I mean, not clerical, but, he founded churches and was a bishop. And then he retired to the wilderness to work on translating the New Testament. Okay, now I'm going to read another prose piece by request. There's a place in California's High Sierra, scores of them actually, where sheep herders obviously camped. Crude graffiti carved in the bark of trees testify to repeated occupancy by semi-literate Basques. They look recent, though they aren't. Persistent sheep herders had to be evicted by years of infantry patrols after the mountains were declared national parks a century or more ago. Sites that are far from a trailhead are largely undisturbed. A few stones to make a fireplace and a high, warm meadow near dependable water. Somebody's summer home. Mine too, for a few days. I've moved infrequently over the course of my life. A couple of decades growing up in Vermont, a decade as a young man in Manhattan, another decade back in Burlington, 3 decades in San Francisco. 12 houses by my quick count, but I have never felt deeply at home in any of them. Where I have felt at home was in a couple of borrowed living situations and in that High Sierra sheepherders camp. Some theorize that rootlessness is a hallmark of modernity, or that it is fundamental to the human condition. Perhaps, starting with simian ancestry, we are natural nomads. I have walked hundreds of miles in cities. I am profoundly happy and satisfied, hopping a field of rocks high in the trackless wilderness. This has been true since I was a boy. Although the house I grew up in, of course, seems central and my dreams often still occur there, dark drain hole in the middle of the rotating vortex of my life, it was in the widening orbits of exploration through the countryside around it that I developed a sense of a separate destiny for myself. We lived a couple of miles outside the village amidst woodland and stone and walls and pastures. Down the back road that eventually led to other towns, a tiny stream of water crossed the road through a culvert. As it neared the culvert, it descended through a rock-lined pool bordered by ferns and nodding columbines, a shady, tinkling secret spring. The spot was tiny and wouldn't be noticed from the road unless you knew it was there. This was where the treasure was hid. Across the road, the stream continued through a stand of conifers, its floor a spongy bed of moss and needles, a magic forest. I know how to find this place if it's still there. The natural world changes. But where is it really? No matter what the town clerk says, no one owns it. Is it in the forest of fairy tales? When Emily Dickinson asks, "Have you got a brook in your little heart?" Is she talking about this one? Well, yes. But it's also more real than a dream told in a tale or a symbol in a poem. When it bubbles through the stone wall, you can actually scoop the cold water and drink it. The stream is in motion, and so are you. You have left the fantasy home of history, geographical context, rumination, and are circling freely about. There, where the brook crosses under the road, You find a kernel of actuality, of encounter, and it tastes good.